Our society is falling apart. Hundreds of thousands are dead. The old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. This is the time when millions look to the skies and plaintively cry, "Is Specialist Rider canon? Are they the true protagonist of the Avatar universe?" I believe I have an answer. But first, a little background. The world of Avatar is a near-future, mostly hard sci-fi setting consisting of stories taking place in the 2150s, in and about the Sol solar system and the nearby Alpha Centauri system. The primary location for all currently existing works in the franchise is Pandora, an Earth-like moon of gas giant Polyphemus, which orbits the star Alpha Centauri A. Pandora is important because it contains large deposits of unobtainium, a high-temperature superconductor valuable for electricity generation, transmission, and storage, as well as use in RDA mega projects like their magnetic levitation train network and the matter-antimatter drives of ships like the ISV Venture Star. It's the new coal or oil, a resource essential for the operation of this new society. In reflection of this, the metal is extremely valuable.
This is why we're here. Unobtainium, because this little gray rock sells for 20 million a kilo. That's the only reason.
Unfortunately, this incredibly valuable essential metal is currently covered by a bunch of poison plants and superstitious aliens who won't simply accept money to allow humans to slash, burn, and dig through their home looking for gray rocks. RDA operations on the planet are conducted by three main groups. RDA security operations, called SecOps because they love stealing valor, are interstellar mall cops assigned to the genuinely impossible task of keeping the science nerds, miners, and business weirdos safe on a radioactive, toxic planet full of hostile aliens. RDA science nerds were brought along due to RDA's treaty obligations. Their job is to explore the planet, catalog its various novel natural phenomena, and figure out ways of peaceful interaction and cultural exchange with the natives. RDA administration are the people who are actually calling the shots, the reason why everyone is here. There's a bunch of metal in the ground that's worth $1 bazillion, and this guy's job is to figure out how to get it out of the ground and into the cars and trains and Wi-Fi connected juicers of Earth as quickly and cheaply as possible. The mismatched incentives of and complex interplay between these three groups is a major driving force of most of the human stories in the Avatar universe. It's a real potboiler of a situation, creating a lot of high-stakes drama. Oh hey, who's that guy? The fantastic complexity of the Avatar universe. Did you know the Na'vi don't have DNA? NV transcriptase works on a separate and novel family of nucleic acids. Is of limited relevance to Avatar the movie. Avatar the movie is particularly and specifically about the trials and tribulations of this guy, Jake Sully. The laser focus on Jake and his emotional journey seems like a strange choice given the aforementioned richness of the setting. Did you know the tractor configuration of the ISV Venture Star was deliberately chosen because a space frame designed to withstand compressive loading would have been too massive? But it's actually the key to the movie's effectiveness. This focus makes it a devastating orbital kinetic bombardment of feeling for a certain kind of person currently having loosely similar experiences in their own lives. If you're wondering why you've barely thought about this movie in like a decade, but a bunch of 49-year-old dads publicly ideated about killing themselves for even the barest chance of ending up on Pandora, this is why. They are Jake and he is them. Jake Sully's life sucks. A resource war in Venezuela took his legs, a random mugging took his brother, he's now stuck light years from home and any familial or community connection in a set of air-conditioned trailers packed with angry jarheads, sleazy business perverts, and egotistical scientists who all shout at him and treat him like he's stupid, worthless garbage. Which is unfair. He used to be useless, he was literally thrown in a gutter, but he is back. The same people who worked him until his body was destroyed and useless found new use for his brain, as a replacement for his twin brothers. He is not garbage, he is recycling. Through his brother's former alien puppet piloting assignment, Jake is introduced to a new world, the world of the Na'vi. A bright and colorful world of family, community, togetherness, nourishing ritual and communion with a real living God.
I'm with her, Drake. She's real.
This world contains everything that Jake needs, everything the gray world of men has stolen from him, all right in front of him, available to him if only he'll reach out for it. The cold, cruel society that destroyed Jake's life offers him a deal. Destroy the Na'vi's happiness, steal it from them in return, and he can have his legs back. Jake, obviously, has a lot to think about. He doesn't spend a lot of the movie actually thinking about any of that, though. Most of Jake's story involves a lot of bumbling. There are a few key things Jake does on purpose, but most of the things that happen to him are unintentional. Unintentional on his part, I mean. He is immediately under the protection of the Holy Spirit from the first third of the movie, but he doesn't know that, and it doesn't really impact any of his decisions. Jake didn't leave the army on purpose. He was medically discharged after his spine got blown apart in Venezuela. Jake didn't dedicate his life to preparing to go to space. He just happens to have a twin brother who did, and whose $5 billion alien meat puppet would go to waste if the RDA didn't use him as a spare. Jake didn't seek out the aliens or proactively attempt to gain their trust. He just fell out of the jungle and bumbled around in front of them, and one of them took pity on him. Sidebar, Ryder would have dispatched all of these animals easily.
You find that creature? Piece of cake.
But whatever. He has made contact with the aliens and infiltrated the tribe. That counts as success. Jake then learns about the ways of the Na'vi very slowly. He helps the SecOps people also pretty slowly. He fails to hide the fact that he's obviously helping SecOps from the scientists, but it genuinely doesn't even matter. They don't even give him a hard time about it. After a few weeks, he gets kind of good and learns how to do the thing and ride the whatever and fly the thing and do all of the stuff expected of a warrior in his new society. The Na'vi respect him, Neytiri loves him, everything's coming together. This is where he makes his biggest bungle of all. Oh hey, it's a bulldozer. Let's analyze the situation. These bulldozers, and the related ticking clock they represent, were explicitly introduced to not only us in the audience, but Jake himself. He's right there listening to it.
You got 3 months. That's when the dozers get there.
But we're wasting time.
Jake received weeks of forewarning that the bulldozers were on their way. He had opportunities, every time he left his link bed, to verify their progress. This situation should not have taken him by surprise. It also shouldn't have taken the Na'vi by surprise. They're wide-ranging hunter-gatherers with access to flying horses and a literal connection to the land itself. The RDA cutting a massive and unnatural path of total destruction and ruin on a direct beeline to their home should have been detected weeks ago, not just that morning. But this is beside the point. This is the story of Jake, not the story of the Na'vi aliens acting intelligently of their own volition to protect themselves from external threats. But speaking of Jake, what was he doing? Regardless of any emotional confusion or conflict over his ultimate allegiances, the duty of any non-sociopathic person is clear. He should, months previously, weeks previously, the previous night, have gone to the tribal elders and explained the situation clearly and simply. The Sky People want the sparkly rocks more than you can possibly understand. The Sky People chiefs don't value the lives of others and will accept an unlimited number of dead human warriors, kill an unlimited number of Na'vi to acquire it. The biggest supply of sparkly rock in the area is directly under your home.
Look at all that cheddar.
Just lay it all out on the table. I can't tell you what to do. If you want to negotiate, I can help you do that. If you want to fight, I can at least tell you what not to do so you don't get instantly and humiliatingly owned by our metal birds. But whatever. Trust me, don't trust me. Get your kids and your elders out of the combat zone immediately. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't even try to do it. Not telling these people the basic facts of their situation, letting their kids get roasted to death in Space 9/11 because having a difficult conversation would have ruined the vibes of his space vacation, is an act of such monumental, selfish evil that, in my opinion, Jake Sully is deserving of death regardless of what he does from this point onwards. Haha, got ya. None of that actually matters. This isn't a story about the alien children whose deaths Jake could have prevented, it's about Jake being loved and accepted. Unfortunately, due to his latest bungle, he has to re-earn acceptance by the tribe. He does so by gaining access to the Big Bird, which is bigger than all of the other birds, and traveling around the continent to show everyone his large bird. The idiot savages, seeing that he has the largest bird, elect to join a big army under his leadership to stop the Sky People once and for all. Then he loses. Double twist. Once Sekops has time to collect themselves, they completely curb stomp Jake's tiny army. You might not remember this. I didn't remember this until I rewatched this movie, but everyone who has spent the last decade talking about Avatar as a generic white savior movie has been lying. It's structured like one, it looks like one in every respect, but at the last moment, it becomes something very different. One could argue that it becomes even worse, that it's the pathetic baby man version of empowerment fantasy, one that doesn't require the hero to even be good at stuff to have all of his wildest dreams come true. But I don't believe that's quite fair. It's my belief that the ending of the Avatar movie represents a genuine attempt to subvert the normal pattern, to turn a story about saving the world into a story about being saved by the world. One that doesn't connect with audiences' desire for a vicarious experience of power, but of shared lack of power, and shared desire for deliverance from their overwhelming circumstances. Eywa is the actual hero. It, through all the animals of the planet, rises up and smashes the RDA machines like they're nothing. The wild, natural world proves itself as superior to the RDA as the RDA is to Jake. Jake himself is, though radically transformed and made physically and emotionally whole by his journey, at the end of the day, just along for the ride. It's a very bold storytelling choice and a very enticing story for a certain kind of person. It wasn't really for me, though. The contrived means by which the movie reached its end. It's a space shuttle. It can go Mach 50 in and out of space. Why do you put guys on it and glide it slowly through Bird Alley? Put a bad taste in my mouth. More importantly, the celebration of an aspect of the natural world as inherently wise and just beyond humanity's ability to understand or manipulate is asinine. Get it out of this sci-fi movie. Even more importantly, I don't like Jake. I think he's a pathetic worm who should die, and so the focus on his frustrated emotional needs does nothing for me. No, thank you. However, the Avatar multimedia franchise does feature another protagonist, based in a much different story. Lance Corporal Abel Ryder has no canonical first name. He, she, they has no canonical gender, race, ethnicity, or extant family ties. As reflected in their official biographical portrait, seen here containing a bunch of guns and flamethrowers and no person, who Ryder is largely defined by what Ryder can do. Their, if you'll excuse the term, particular set of skills. Like Jake, Ryder also enlisted in the military. Unlike Jake, Ryder was a big ol' smarty pants who was good at math and computers. Because of this, they scored appointment as a signals specialist and codebreaker, not a frontline soldier.
Every time I tell him, stop sending grunts, and every time, more grunts arrive.
Signal specialist.
Because of that, they were never wounded in battle. Ryder arrives on Pandora with both legs fully intact. Look at them go. Ryder is on Pandora, not to pay for some necessary but costly surgery, but because they, like the player of a computer game, are bored. During a previous stint with the RDA, they were indirectly complicit in the deaths of millions of people via tsunami. They felt a little guilty and left to do boring stuff like code analysis or whatever. 3 years of well-compensated drudgery later, they're approached by the RDA to bring their talents to Pandora. They instantly rejoin. Why wouldn't they? What do you expect them to do? Sit back and use their skills to collect a large, easy paycheck without the opportunity to excel? Think again.
What's a couple of lives when you got bars?
Lucky for Ryder, Pandora is full of exciting opportunities to demonstrate their ability. Their first day in the RDA Blue Lagoon facility serves as an introduction to the tasks they'll be expected to complete. Killing wild dogs to rescue 5 people, killing wild dogs to rescue 1 person, killing wild dogs on the way to do that previous guy's job because he doesn't know how to prep a radio beacon, killing wild dogs on the way to find evidence of sabotage at the wild dog repelling beacons. It's their very first day, and they already saved 6 lives, completed a Priority 1 mission, and helped uncover a mole. Ryder's next assignment, totally unrelated to the mole thing, involves assisting his fellow pilots, Harper, Epstein, and Langley. The fact that one of these pilots is named Jay Epstein and his friend is named Langley is making me feel like I'm going insane, so I will not be talking about either of them again until the end of the game's second act. Just as machine gunning dogs to death was an introduction to life in the RDA, the player doing chores for Harper and the gang serves as Ryder's introduction to the world of the Na'vi. As an avatar, the world is a much friendlier place. Plants don't automatically attack you, neither do viper wolves if you give them a sufficiently wide berth. In recognition of this, Ryder no longer receives EXP for wanton destruction of the planet's wildlife. While their missions still involve danger and conflict, they do so in a much more limited way, harvesting specific plants for gene samples, culling specific animals to prevent an infection from spreading to the rest of the herd. More about responsible stewardship of this new ecosystem than shooting everything that moves to protect RDA's fence line. But enough about that. It's time to catch a mole. Oh my god, I can't believe the mole was Harper.
It's you. You're the mole. Is that what you're here for? Find the mole. Well, you did it. I'm the mole. Great work, Ryder. I smell promotion in the air.
Do you realize what you're doing?
Think about what you're doing. Any of this look familiar?
Wait, that's...
Yeah, that's where the Na'vi used to live. Before you stepped in.
Me? I didn't do this.
Everyone's hearing about it. The new SIG-Spec locked the target. What the hell did you think you were doing?
They told me it was... Oh, God.
They used you, Ryder. Falco and the RDA are finished. It's just a matter of time. I've joined with the Na'vi.
Give it up, Harper. Don't make this messy.
The Na'vi could use you. It's now or never. We're two avatars against these guys. We can take them. Let's do it right now. Right now!
Time's up! Ryder, I order you to shoot Harper.
Here, in the climax of the game's first act, the player is given a choice. Shoot Harper or shoot Falco. All of the whinging and foot-dragging of Jake's slow change of loyalties is boiled down to a split-second life-or-death decision, one which Ryder ultimately has little trouble making. For many reasons, some of which I will elaborate upon later, I, unlike the cowards of the James Cameron's Avatar wiki, recognized the all-the-way RDA route to be canon. Ryder attacks Harper, but their avatar is killed in the process. That's obviously a mild career complication, but they are still a signal specialist. Could you imagine getting permanently maimed and having no specialized technical skills to fall back on? Oof. With a quick post-death helicopter crash and solo hike through Banshee-infested mountains out of the way, Ryder finally has a chance to sit down and hear why the RDA requires their unique set of skills.
What Sphinx of cement and aluminum bashed open their skulls and ate up their brains and imagination?
Ryder has been requisitioned from Earth to help analyze Eywa, the world intelligence of Pandora, and find a site for the deployment of a device called the Emulator, the most hilarious thing in the entire Avatar franchise. The Emulator is a technological device that, when attached to the appropriate structure on the surface of Pandora, will allow the RDA to connect to it as if they were a Na'vi priest, and use that connection to intercept, disrupt, even forge communications between Eywa and the ecosystem connected to its network. Put simply, their plan is to hack the Na'vi's god and replace it with a machine they control.
Hack the planet! Hack the planet!
They can't inject their Silicon Moloch into the Na'vi's mother goddess just anywhere, though. They need to do so at the Well of Souls, a unique location on Pandora's surface. They don't yet know where it is, but have a lead on some clues. If they can obtain certain large pieces of unobtainium and bring them to willow trees, minor nodes in the Eywa network, The electromagnetic interaction between the tree and the shards can be recorded, and information about the relative location of the Well of Souls extracted. Unfortunately, both the shards and the trees have significant religious, cultural, and practical importance to the Na'vi. The willows are their literal connection to their god and their dead ancestors. They aren't just going to let some RDA scientist walk up and mess with it. This is where Ryder comes in. As a signal specialist with military training, they have both the ability to shoot their way to each tree and the knowledge to do what's necessary when they get there. This quest forms the backbone of Ryder's adventures on Pandora. There are 3 trees, 3 shards per tree, resulting in 4 missions per area. In each area, Ryder will also be tasked with secondary assignments, such as the assassination of rogue avatars and their Na'vi collaborators, and general sector challenges, involving scouting of the area, and, anyway, welcome to the FEBA, the Forward Edge of the Battle area, a level exclusively available in the RDA campaign. RDA soldiers have been secretly skirmishing with the Na'vi for some time, but, now that war has been officially declared, are allowed to go hog wild. Ryder's job, as it usually is to navigate through this chaos, helping where necessary to grab the shards and willow reading, and to kill this idiot Bediamo who has been pushing the RDA back for weeks. Naturally, Ryder does this in an afternoon. Instead of fruitlessly patrolling the jungle for Bediamo, Ryder makes him come to them. They attack the willow tree, kill all his warriors, and when he comes by to stop Ryder from messing around with the most sacred thing in the spiritual life of his tribe, bounce grenades off his head until he dies.
Hearing radio chatter. Beidamo's gone missing. The Na'vi are pulling out. You have anything to do with that? I got what we came for. Okay, nice work, Ryder. Let's get your data back to Monroe. We need to hurry. Tensions are starting to boil over at Hell's Gate.
It's here that we're introduced to an extra complication. In this story, instead of the protagonist cracking up in the second act, it's the RDA. Internal tensions between the scientists and SecOps and SecOps, are rapidly heating up. Next stop is Graves Bog, a lush area full of Na'vi settlements. Ryder's quest here involves collecting some shards, recording a tree, and killing people. Big surprises here. However, there are 2 or 3 interesting twists. The first is that 2 of the 3 shards are found inside Na'vi villages. We aren't in the FEBA anymore, we are behind the front, where people live. In the mission entitled Pillage the Village, Ryder moves in behind an RDA bombing run of a Na'vi settlement and, in tandem with this way too extra guy with a flamethrower, pacifies any remaining Na'vi and makes off with a crystal. It's funny how, when they first landed on Pandora, Ryder was vaguely conflicted about Falco bombing a Na'vi village. Now, they're just like, whatever, and actively participate in gunning down the survivors. The second is when Ryder asks this lady how they can help, and she responds like so.
Kill anything that's blue. We got a full-blown raid on our hands.
Okay, got it. The third is when Ryder helps the RDA massacre an entire Sternbeast herd so they won't be a threat to the base. Also, Tangela is dead now. He made the extremely stupid mistake of getting between Ryder and a tree harmonic. Cross that one off the list. Drama update.
And watch yourself, Ryder. Things are turning nasty around here. Falco said if the emulator didn't work perfectly, he'd put a bullet in my brain.
I doubt he was serious.
He was holding a gun to my head when he said it. That's serious enough for me. Hurry, the harmonic.
Office politics can get pretty crazy when HR is 5 light years away. Whatever, I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, welcome to the Hanging Gardens, a deep forest area full of wreckage from RDA's previous colonization attempts. The second Ryder leaves their chopper, they're immediately tasked with killing the warband of Na'vi assaulting the camp. The interim RDA camp, known as the Drop, is beset on all sides by hostile natives and animals. Ryder spends a significant amount of time handling its various problems, retrieving their supplies, destroying viper wolf nests, etc. After doing everyone's jobs for them again, Ryder can finally get down to business. There are crystals to collect, again, but more importantly, their old Avatar buddies have been detected in the area. Ryder's mission isn't to simply destroy the stolen Avatar bodies, but to track down the pilots themselves and extra-legally terminate them as well. Can do. The complete lack of hesitation with which Ryder escalates to killing humans may seem chilling at first, but what's the real difference here? Ryder has already killed hundreds of Na'vi. Any hesitation to plug a couple of humans as well would be the result of simple species-based chauvinism, something Ryder is clearly far beyond. Also, I mean, JJ clearly knows too much. There's no way we can send him back to Earth to stand trial. Shortly before Ryder punches his ticket, Harper brings up the possibility that, hey, maybe these orders from Falco aren't actually legitimate. I really hope that's not the case. Drama update. Colonel Falco has gone rogue, murdered Monroe, and is on his way to the Well of Souls to activate the emulator himself. Well, RIP to Monroe, but I'm different. Ryder's final mission involves a combined arms assault on the Na'vi Well of Souls. Since you now know its location, there's no need for crystal hunts anymore. Instead, Ryder is tasked with assassinating the leaders of the enemy armies, the Scout, the Savage, and the Hunter. Swata, Hukato, and Ralta aren't mindless savages. Each has their own strategy for attempting to defeat Ryder. Swata, the most outside the box, simply and genuinely asks Ryder to switch sides, arguing that Falco's madness, RDA's madness, is going to destroy the planet. The player is even allowed to take them up on their offer, but come on. At this point, no way. After cleaning up one last Na'vi village, Ryder, at long last, makes it to the Well of Souls and confronts idiot meathead Commander Falco. He obviously doesn't have the training or temperament to be wielding this potentially world-destroying doomsday device, so there's really only one option here. The emulator activates. Due to Ryder's last-minute tinkering, it appears to activate successfully. The Na'vi are thrown from their mounts, and the RDA take over the area. Ryder, having overcome the Na'vi, having field-executed their incompetent boss, having subordinated God itself, now stands alone at the top of the world. Drama update. Officer Midori was killed off-screen. Jake's story is about one out-of-his-depth bumbler's hidden anguish and desperate desire for the human connection and warmth denied to him by an artificial, alienating modern world. Ryder's story is about the kind of person perfectly at home in Jake's world. Somebody who is able to complete every task, endure any physical hardship, shed any personal attachment, and destroy any enemy whose only fear is boredom. The Jake Sully story is very romantic in character. Eywa represents aspects of the natural world ultimately beyond humanity's control. The triumph of Pandora's wild nature over the RDA shows that the power of human machinery and institutions is not unlimited and can still be resisted. In the Able Ryder story, resistance is futile. The machinery of the modern, of limitless human ingenuity and appetite, strips the Pandoran wilderness for parts. The poisoned plants, the vicious animals, the Na'vi warriors are all just good sources of EXP and valuable genetic material. Eywa, the alien's god, is just another networked computer system. One signal specialist Ryder is easily able to investigate and exploit. There is no such thing as the intractably wild, no such thing as the sacred, just resources to be extracted by humanity on humanity's terms. Jake ends his story so transformed by his experiences with the Na'vi that he literally becomes one, leaving his broken human body and destructive society behind to live in happiness with his wonderful new family. At the end of Ryder's story, the Tepani clan's resistance is totally broken. Their leaders and hundreds of their warriors are dead. Avatar Program Chief Harper and SecOps No. 2 Falco both require closed casket funerals. Everyone who even looked at Ryder funny is dead now, and the RDA now has a direct connection to Eywa. The world is completely changed, but Ryder hasn't changed at all. It might seem like these are just two radically different stories produced at different times to serve the different interests and emotional needs of two very different audiences, and neither really has to be better or the correct one. That's Jake-style loser talk. The fantasies, the worldviews embodied by each protagonist are in competition, if not in total incommensurability. As racist people who attribute stories to non-specific indigenous populations occasionally say, there are two wolves at war inside of the Avatar franchise. One is a weepy man-baby whose heart and mind are buckling under assault by the inhuman modern world and is desperately grasping at any possibility of having a trad GF before he literally dies of a broken heart. One is a constantly striving Redditor whose abuse of gray market Russian nootropics and constant rewatching of Limitless has genuinely damaged their brain and turned them into a capitalism monster no longer bound by human concepts like good and evil. Which one wins? The one you feed. Pandora, the world of Avatar, exists. The RDA-1, Ryder is not only canon, but the more influential protagonist. I rest my case. Okay, let me back up a little and explain myself. Pandora, the world of Avatar TM, is a themed area within Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. It is not, as one would expect, designed to directly invoke events from the movie, or to reproduce the experience of living on Pandora as a Na'vi. Rather, it's designed to simulate a theme park for humans operating on the surface of Pandora. By visiting the World of Avatar theme park, you, the Earth tourist, are invited to roleplay as a futuristic interstellar tourist visiting the literal world on which Avatar takes place. The park, again, existing on the surface of Pandora, contains a number of features: a breathable atmosphere, friendly human shopkeepers working for the Alpha Centauri Expeditions Company, the ability to hijack a cloned Na'vi body for a fun Ikran ride, and zero Na'vi. It's essentially impossible for humans and Na'vi to permanently inhabit the same environments. The primary problem isn't the obvious and substantial difference in height, which, if anything, would make for a hilarious and family-friendly situational comedy. Like, can you imagine one of these guys buying a human sports car, then trying to drive it off the lot? Or some kind of National Lampoon's Vacation-style family trying to climb into a Na'vi sleeping bag? Hilarious stuff. Unfortunately, the real problem is much less funny. Humans and Na'vi breathe different air. An atmosphere hospitable to Na'vi is lethally poisonous to humans and vice versa. Any shared spaces require one faction to wear masks full-time to avoid succumbing to carbon dioxide or oxygen poisoning. Because of this, the Valley of Moara, once a sacred place to the Na'vi, is full of anti-Na'vi poison. So long as this area is under the control of ACE, is host to human tourists, they can never return. James Cameron's Avatar the Game describes the reality of this situation perfectly in its Conquest Mode minigame. Occupation of Pandora is a zero-sum game. Sectors of its surface may be occupied by humanity or the Na'vi, but not both. Coexistence is impossible. Alpha Centauri Expeditions has, in cooperation with Disney's Animal Kingdom, created a Disney-style resort and day park on the surface of an alien moon. This park is staffed by hundreds of humans and visited by thousands of guests per day. How did all of these people get here? Well, they flew here, like Jake did, like Ryder did, likely on a ship much like the ISV Venture Star. Only upgraded, since these are obviously billionaire spoiled brat space tourists and not non-billionaire army brat space gunmen. The deck with all of the freeze pods on it probably had like wood paneling and foosball tables or something. The point I'm slowly getting at is that interstellar travel of the sort we see in the Avatar movies is only practical due to the use of unobtainium for magnetic containment of the Venture Star's engines. Earlier, cold superconductor vessels, like the ISV Bradbury, were forced to dedicate much of their mass to cooling systems and couldn't economically transport as many people or material. The fleet of ships necessary to transport these tens of thousands of guests for relatively short stays at Alpha Cen's cool theme park must be orders of magnitude larger than the one RDA was using to send workers on 5-year tours. Construction of a fleet of that size is only practical if unobtainium is plentiful and available at rock-bottom prices. Pandora can only exist as a vacation destination for the whole family. ACE can only exist at all if RDA in some form ultimately won and successfully made off with thousands of tons of unobtainium.
They're not gonna give up their home. They're not gonna make a deal. For a light beer? Some blue jeans? There's nothing that we have that they want.
2 hours later.
This place is amazing. Wind Traders is run by an expat. Here, you can find merchandise that is exclusive to Pandora.
So what exactly is supposed to have happened here? How exactly did we come into possession of all that unobtainium and all this land on Pandora? Did we buy it? With what? We, as Jake is correct in noting, have nothing they want. Handing them $1 trillion is the same as handing them $0. There's nothing we have that they want to buy. As a quick aside, can you imagine wormy business creep Parker Selfish trying to explain what money is to a warrior like Tsutey? He'd be all like, hey, how about some money? Money's great. And Tsutey would be like, what even is money? It's, you know, the stuff you used to pay for things, like food or a Dodge Charger. And Tsutey would just, like, not get it. Like, pay for food? Wouldn't the other able-bodied members of the RDA tribe hunt in his stead if he were too ill or injured to contribute? For what possible reason would the rest of the tribe allow the tiny man to die of starvation? Do they not simply just give each other food? And Selfridge would have to explain, well, no, they all do the money thing, and people without money die. Is he not being paid to hunt stuff? The answer is obviously no, of course. Helping to sustain his people is Tsutey's honor, his life, a joyful task he would never want to not do. The idea that he would keep his skills for himself, ransoming the lives of the elders who raised him, the brothers and sisters of his tribe, and all the young children just entering the world in exchange for abstract units of exchange he can use to force people to give him stuff, is so alien and abhorrent that it would be genuinely difficult for him to even understand it. The dawning realization that there's a planet out there with billions of people exclusively living like that, an endless hell of predation and death existing in tiny cubes on a dead world, would probably break his brain, H.P. Lovecraft style. And at that point, I'm not sure if good old Tsutey would shoot him with a big arrow or collapse into incoherent sobbing and have to be removed. Regardless, a deal would not be made.
Here at Sotili Canteen, getting ready to enjoy some of the delicious food of the Na'vi. One tip about this Disney restaurant, they offer mobile ordering. It's such a convenient way to order and pay for your food right from your phone.
So, we seem to have a problem. Pandora, the world of Avatar, presents us with a future in which hundreds of thousands, if not millions of humans per year are able to use previously scarce resources to fly over and have exclusive access to land holdings that used to be Na'vi sacred sites. How did we get from here to here? It seems like humanity outright genociding the Na'vi is a practical option, but passages in the ACE backstory indicate that this likely did not happen. But if not genocide, what else? What could possibly convince the Na'vi to make a deal? The values, the philosophy, the conception of themselves as the people, a whole and indivisible family inextricable from the land RDA and ACE, wish them to vacate, that makes dealing with them so much trouble is in their bones, in every aspect of their social and religious lives. Changing their minds would require an act of God. If Pandora, the world of Avatar, exists, the emulator must have existed. It's the only tool in humanity's arsenal capable of bringing about the world in which the park exists. The emulator, unlike guns or bombs or orbital kinetic bombardment, is capable of changing what the Na'vi want. Through further study and experimentation, the RDA could and likely did refine their use of the emulator, turning it from hard power, an area denial sledgehammer capable of frying brains, into soft power, an instrument of invisible psychological influence capable of changing the Na'vi's attitudes and preferences. Again, this is a world where the Na'vi are totally defeated. To the extent to which they still occupy their moon, they do so on humanity's terms and where humanity allows. Their holy place is full of poison and is now the exclusive domain of fun, quirky businesses run by expat human colonists. And their priestess, the Shaman of Songs, now exclusively sings 50 times per day for half-listening human tourists. Even their faces are for sale at Colors of Moara, a fun face paint hut staffed exclusively by human colonists that will put your child in authentic, respectful blue face. It is impossible to make this more on the nose than it already is. Total societal co-option via the emulator is the only possible explanation for why whatever Na'vi warriors still remain haven't descended on this hellhole and turned it into the Roanoke colony. If the emulator existed, somebody had to put it there. The technological and material resources required to establish soft power don't magically come into being. They have to be first extracted. If the emulator exists, Ryder, the person who stole every unobtainium shard, who killed every Na'vi and every human in between RDA and the Well of Souls, must also have existed. RDA Ryder is canon. If you disagree, you're wrong. I will see you in court. James Cameron, please put them in the second movie, or at least make an Animatrix kind of midquel with different stories, one of which involving everybody's favorite Heinleinian Ubermensch being assigned to repossess Jake's avatar, which is technically still RDA property or something. Oh, before I go, 2 honorable mentions to 2 amazing characters. Dr. Monroe was awesome, and I'm sad he's dead. Unlike the waffly scientists in the Avatar movie, he had zero illusions about what he was doing. He fully knew that he was hacking the Na'vi as God, and the emulator could potentially collapse the entire planet's ecosystem if something went wrong, but he was totally game to continue. He had total confidence in his abilities and was really having a blast until Falco shot him in the head off-screen. Dr. Lovecraft, subtlety off the charts here, is probably the most important scientist in the world of Avatar, but neither appears in the movie or the game. To my knowledge, he or she exclusively receives mention in the official Lightstorm Entertainment Pandorapedia page about the Avatar program. If you'll excuse me, I'd like to read a section of it verbatim. Initial dissection of Na'vi specimens found that, although Na'vi show a surprising degree of external convergent evolution, internally they are quite different from humans. The Na'vi brain in particular, with its external tendrils and 3-lobed structure, was a daunting obstacle. Building on work with brain-wiped primates and condemned criminals, Dr. Lovecraft was able to establish that full sensory bonding could be established between human twins, human-animal hybrids that shared common DNA, and human Na'vi hybrids with common genetic blueprints. Did you know that the Avatar link chambers, the technology that made Jake's wonderful dream of freedom and transcendence come true, were built on the dissection of Na'vi specimens, experiments on condemned criminals, and Mangala-style twin studies? Well, you are now. Bye.